All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Bernd. Evan, how we doing, man?
We're living, we're thriving. That's all I got to say.
Hey, man, you got that right. You got that right. So Milwaukee had 2 games this Saturday. Or let me try that again. Milwaukee. So here's what we're going to be talking about on the pod today. So me and Evan are going to recap Milwaukee's disappointing 112-97 loss to the Orlando Magic on Saturday. We'll be talking about their bounce back performance against the Chicago Bulls on Monday. And then we will be talking about if the team should go after either Jae Crowder we're going to be talking about if Jae Crowder, what his absence will do for the team. Because as you know, yesterday he is going to be missing 8 weeks due to a left abdominal tear and a left adductor tear. Sounds like a painful injury. Yeesh.
Yeah, it's the no-no area for the guys.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
assuming probably like end of December, probably into January, he'll probably be out until we're already halfway through November. Yeah, 8 weeks, so into January at least.
Yeah, and then we're going to be talking about should Milwaukee go after Alex Caruso. So, let's just kind of get right into it. Milwaukee had a performance against the Magic. Disappointing 112-97 loss. There's really no positives to take away from that game other than, I guess Giannis having 35 points.
Yeah, that was the only positive, I think, out of that game. And I will give Campaign some credit too. He's been pretty consistent. He was 6 for 8, and I know he started like 5 for 5, I think. But him having 2 3-pointers, 14 points, starting in the absence of Lillard. But yeah, otherwise everything else sucked. And the Bucks have officially lost their winning streak against the Magic of 14 games in a row.
Ugh. Yeah, that was
since I think the bubble.
That's tough. So I guess what do you make of Milwaukee's performance against Orlando?
It was very expected. I had a feeling they were not going to win this game. They've been horrible on the road. They're 1-3 right now away. But it was, again, no Lillard. So it was another carry by Giannis, scoring 35 points, 10 rebounds, almost a triple-double. He had 35 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. He was kind of stat padding over there, but he had no help. Blake Beasley didn't make a shot, make a free throw, or even shoot a free throw. Jae Crowder, 1 point. Marjan, 5 points in 20 minutes. His really only help was Campaign. You could kind of say Chris and Bobby, but otherwise it was a Giannis show for nothing. Didn't even score 100 points against the Magic.
All right. Before I say my piece, I don't know if anybody can see this. My connection's unstable right now, so I gotta attempt. I'm gonna pause this for a sec. Keep talking. This is gonna get blurry.
But yeah, I would say, in my opinion, the big thing, the Bucks have been horrible away. I think their only win away was against the Nets, if I'm mistaken. But it doesn't look good. They look lost, and whether Damian Lillard's in or out, I feel like they should have won. Damian Lillard should not be the deciding factor to beat the Magic. And again, they beat them every time since the first game of the 2020 bubble. But yeah, Brooke hasn't been doing too well. 9 points in that game. I don't know, but Andre Jackson Jr. did come in for 14 minutes and score 4 points, a couple rebounds, just good defensively, just kind of being around. I'll talk more about him with the Bulls one too. But I think one of the big things, though, was their free throw percentage. 12 of 25 shooting. So they shot under 50% shooting from the free throw line. You add, realistically, I think they should have made if you say 8 more, let's say they go 20 for 25. That's a whole different game. And they shot 9 of 29 from 3. And their big thing right now is 3-point shooting. Free throws are the most hit or miss stat ever, and they were out rebounded. Not as much, but 7 difference. But my big thing that I kind of stood out was out of the 9 guys who played for the Magic, 3 of them dropped 20 plus, and 1 of them had 19. And then they let Jonathan Isaac score double digits on them, where just overall everything was going in for them for a while. And whenever the Bucks kind of hinted at coming back, they just kind of gave it right back. Every quarter they scored under 30 points. It was really the Magic's second quarter that kind of let them run away with it a little bit, outscoring them by 12. But just overall ugly game. I would say kind of spotlight moment was Paolo scoring 26, Franz Wagner scoring 24, and then his brother 19 off the bench. But yeah, seeing the return of Joe Ingles scored 5 points when he's been averaging like under a point is never fun. Making a 3-pointer and then a couple of free throws. But just overall, not a good game. One of those things where they just got to slowly start to figure themselves out a lot more offensively, especially without Damian Lillard in the game. Obviously, I said earlier that shouldn't make a difference, but if you're not scoring and you're missing your priority scorer, it's kind of hard once you're down that guy. But we did see a lot of bench players play. Everyone played but Lindell and Robin. So we saw Thanasis for 10 minutes, had 2 assists and a block. Pat played for 16, had a 3-pointer, a couple rebounds, and an assist. But I think one of the bigger standouts, AJ Green finally got to go in. He had 1 3-pointer in 9 minutes. And Andre Jackson's getting 15 minutes. I think he deserves more minutes personally. And again, I'll mention that more in the Bulls game. But again, just a gross game. Bobby had 13, but shot horribly outside of his 2 for 5 on 3. But I don't know. It's frustrating. It's getting annoying at this point that we are consistently getting blown out by these teams that, I mean, the Magic aren't doing horrible this year, but in the end, are they going to go to the finals? Absolutely not. Or probably even make the playoffs. All these teams always have like a fun little start to the season and then slowly start to drop.
You are 100% correct. Sorry if I'm moving around. I'm just trying to see if I can get my internet connection get a little better. But yeah, no, it was a really, really frustrating game. It wasn't really anything I expected. I thought that at some points they would, at least I thought they would. I thought you got to beat the Magic. Okay, you got to beat the Magic. Okay. And the problem with this team is that the scoring hasn't been as even as I want it to be because it feels like there's only 1 to 2 guys going off. It's either Giannis or Lillard. And, the other guys just got to step up. Okay. It shouldn't be that way. They're not going to win anything if it's just if Giannis has a big game and Lillard has a big game and then everybody else scores like 10 to 12 points. Like that's not going to win you ball games.
Yeah, I see it as some of especially Malik Beasley. He's like we've mentioned him many times before this season already, but my God, he either scores 20 points or he doesn't score anything. And this was one of the games where he didn't score a single point, went 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 on threes, didn't get to the line. Had a couple rebounds and an assist, and like that was it. It's like, all right, you're not doing anything. Why are you starting? Why are you it's the most hit or miss guy, but scoring 0 points as a starter is not a good look, especially someone who played 20 minutes. But can't have nice things.
No, and the problem is just like, they got rid of Grayson Allen for Damian Lillard. We could probably use Grayson Allen right about now.
He's been doing really well in the Suns. I know he had an 8 3-point game the other day. I would love that. Damn. That'd be cool. Why didn't you do that over here? But yeah, Malik Beasley needs to be studied because his his consistency is so not there. And it's kind of frustrating because you want these guys to perform. Because if he realistically, if he has like a decent game and they made their free throws, you have a whole different ball game. Not saying that he would just automatically make 5 3-pointers, but missing more 3-point or free throws that you made, and then having a starter get 0 points is a game right there, a deciding factor, I should say. The free throw needs to, be figured out as well. Giannis going 5 for 12 and others just 1 for 3, 1 for 2. It was mainly Giannis, but golly. He used it all up in that Pacers loss.
Yeah, Jesus.
That's really what I got on this game. It was horrible overall and not a good look for them. I think Adrian Griffin needs to do better when it comes to coaching away games, because the way that they play when they're away is way different from when they play at home, because 3 of their losses out of their 4 losses are away losses. And they're blown out losses. Like, you got that Raptors one was horrible. And then the Magic one too, but yeah, the Pacers one was their other loss, but that was that almost blowout into a 2-point loss. But yeah, coaching away needs to be kind of looked at more, just because of the difference in atmosphere. You don't have all the Bucks fans that you do when you're home, but it's kind of frustrating just to kind of continually see us getting blown out when we're away.
You're right. It. And the other thing too is, like, they went 9 of 29 from 3, and then, like you said, 12 of 25 on free throws, 19 turnovers. And not only that, but, like, I don't know what it is, but every time the Wagner twins go up against us, like any Wisconsin team, they just always have, like, their career performances. And look, I get Franz Wagner's good, but Mo's had 19. It's just like you can't stop those guys.
Yeah, it's just an ugly game watching, like, a bunch of, like, sophomores, 3-year guys, and, like, rookies, 3-year guys, and Joe Ingles, like, beat a team of Giannis, Chris, Brooke, Campaign, Jae Crowder, like, all these guys. Not saying that should be every time, but come on, like, we shouldn't be scoring under 100 points to the Magic.
No. And look, and here's the other stat too. Their 4 losses this year, because right now they're 6-4, which again, not the start we expected. Their 4 losses here, they've allowed over 100 points.
Yes.
So
and all of them are into the 120s.
So, and every one of their wins this year, they've also allowed 100 points.
Yes, it's not like they're winning 120 to 101 or 106 to 89. They're neck and neck for the wins.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, overall game where it's another one we just got to kick under the rug and move on, but it's hard to move on when you see it so many times. It was okay, cool, we got blown up by the Hawks. Let's figure that out from there. And then, oh, we're getting blown up by the Raptors. Oh, we're getting blown up by the Pacers. Oh, we came back. Oh, but we lost still. And then it's cool. We lost again the first quarter or the second quarter, I would say, for this one to the Magic. But just a lot of blown opportunities where they're just not able to win these games that they should be winning. Personally. But yeah, that's probably my biggest thing with it. But yeah, I'm good to talk about the Bulls. That Magic game was atrocious.
Yeah. So if you're watching this live, my connection's still bad. There's nothing I can do. I try moving closer to the router. It's if you're watching this live, I'm just gonna apologize in advance. Yeah, the Bucks did beat the Bulls. Do you have the final score of that game? Because I think it was like 103.
109 to 118.
Oh, okay.
This was another. Okay, again, I say this every time. I would just want a solid Bucks win, and this had the chance to be a solid Bucks win for the first time this year, but they just could not maintain their lead. It was like the first quarter, like they were up 35-18. They gave up less than 20 points. They scored almost 40. And then every quarter on, they either were outscored or they had the same amount in each quarter. But it was, they would go up by 13 and then they would get it back to like 3 or 4. Then they would go up by 10 and then they would get it right. It was like so inconsistent where the numbers were going back and forth, which should not be happening when you're the way that a lot of these guys were shooting for the Bulls. Like DeRozan was 3 for 14. Zach LaVine was 5 for 19. Kobe White was 6 for 14. Vucevic took 24 shots and their whole starting lineup, but Torrey Craig took more than 14 shots minimum. And a lot of these guys' shots just went in at the worst timing. But yeah, they just could not maintain a lead for a good chunk of time after the first quarter. It just was Bucks winning. Yeah. Oh, they tied it. Oh yeah, we're winning by 10. Oh, they tied it. It's like you couldn't enjoy a lead, and they scored 35 in the fourth quarter, and so did the Bulls. So the first quarter won them the game. Had they not been up by 17 in the first quarter, then they barely would have won or lost. But if you have anything, otherwise, I have one thing that I want to pick from the Bulls game for the Bucks.
So the one thing I have to pick from watching the Bulls game was, honestly, and this is such a low bar, it was probably their best defensive performance of the season. It's such a low bar to like even say that, but because every Bucks game I've watched, it's like, oh Jesus, like there's too many, they're allowing too much in transition, you know, allowing too many wide open threes, but it's like Chicago's offense is so, like, they're so reliant on like 2 to 3 people, where it's you know, or if DeRozan is not doing good, then we still got Zach LaVine, and then obviously, you know, Milwaukee's has had its struggles going up against Vucevic. But I think DeRozan struggled yesterday. Zach LaVine only dropped in 20, and you know, Vucevic had about 26. So, you know, I don't know if you would call their offense bad, but they're easy to defend, I feel like.
Yeah, they're not the tallest team. Obviously, you have Vucevic, who's their starting center, who's their taller guys. But even Andre Drummond isn't like the most towering center.
No.
He's 6'11", so it's like, yeah, he's tall, but I feel like we have guys who can get around him a lot easier. And he didn't even play a whole lot. He played like 12 minutes. So it was one of those things where Vucevic was the guy who had the guard, and he still shot 11 for 24. So he was realistically their best guy. But yeah, when their whole team was off and you're winning by 9 points is, again, not a good look. No. Especially holding DeRozan and Zach LaVine to their shooting performances. 2 for 10 for LaVine on 3, and DeRozan 3 for 14, who was the pull-up god who would destroy it every time we played him when he was on the Raptors. But to hold them to that and then to, again, just get that win, it's still frustrating. And I think my biggest pick is Damian Lillard.
Ooh,
God damn.
That was tough.
He is shooting horribly for the Bucks, like horrible. He was 3 for 17 shooting and 1 for 9 on threes. And it's like he's forcing himself to shoot. And now my opinion or my idea for this is maybe he's not used to playing with Giannis still, and it's like he needs to be the guy to kind of pick him up or keep him in these games, and he just wants to shoot. But yeah, Giannis took 22 shots and was 13 for 22. But they had the same amount of threes, and Giannis took a step back fadeaway buzzer for the 3-point, where it's like that wasn't like a game one. That was just, I'm going to try to get up a shot before the buzzer ends and see if we can score more. So they made the same amount of threes, which doesn't look good. But Lillard is really starting to irritate me with the poor shooting performances almost every game.
Yeah. He's misreading when it's Dame time.
Yes.
It's like, 35-footer. Not Dame. We don't need that shot in the third quarter. Okay. All right. We I like Dame Lillard. Don't get me wrong, but geez Louise, we don't need like a Steph Curry 35-footer in the fourth quarter with your recent shooting performances.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good shot. Okay, look, when you're off, you're off. Okay, trust me, a 35-footer is not gonna, that's not gonna snap you back into it, unless maybe you're Steph Curry. But again, I do want to be fair to Dame, because I think there are teams that are basically taking him away. Because right now, at this current moment, I mean, really outside of Giannis, but they probably consider Dame to be the head of the snake on offense. So it's like, well, if we take Dame out of the game, like if we blitz him on every pick and roll, then it's like, well, if we just allow Giannis to score all their points, Milwaukee's like a lot more beatable. Because who else would you be scared of? Like Chris Middleton hasn't really rounded into form yet.
Yeah. Once he gets off minutes, but still, it's not like he's going to be a 30-point or 28-point average game.
Yeah, and honestly, the more that I think about it, like Chris Middleton on this team is kind of an afterthought. Like if you really think about it, because it's like it used to be like
Giannis
and Chris. Now it's just that Dame came into the mix. Now, I feel like there's some fans that kind of forget that Middleton's even on the team. I don't know if you do, but I sometimes, like, at least for me, I think of him as kind of like an afterthought, where he's there, but he doesn't. His role's kind of reduced, like for what it once was.
Yeah, because he's slowly getting his minute restrictions back. So he's been playing like 16 to 20 minutes or 21 minutes, I think. But yeah, and it sucks because like he's shooting like somewhat decently for the amount of time he's playing. Now his 3-pointers haven't been well, but his mid range again is still elite, not elite, but like he's still nasty when he does his pull ups or his little mid range shots, his fadeaways. But yeah, he's underlooked because he's playing realistically like 13 to 15 less minutes than Lillard and Giannis are, and he's not getting the plays that he used to when it was Giannis and he was the second main guy. Because even when Drew Holiday was on the team, I still kind of considered him to be the third guy, just because I saw Drew Holiday as more of a better overall player than Chris. But it kind of sucks because I like Chris. I think he deserves the credit he does get. But yeah, it's hard to see him kind of get brushed over because you have 2 top 75 players of all time on your team, and then there you are trying to like make a presence, I guess, when you're on the court.
Yeah, and my biggest fear is that it's going to be like this the rest of the season, where it's just going to be like Oklahoma City when they had Westbrook and Durant. Okay, just a 2-man show. Here, Dame, you score 45, and here, I'm Giannis, I'll score like 20. And then everybody else will score 8. Like that's what scares me, is the fact that I just don't want this offense to devolve into what we can't win unless Giannis and Dame have like massive performances.
Yes.
Like trust me, that catches up with you.
And I would rather have like staggered scoring than one doing it all and then everyone else kind of like chipping in on like the group project kind of work. But it's cool to watch Giannis drop 40 points a lot, but I don't want that to be a reliance. I was just kind of looking at Lillard's stats. I had it up earlier, but I closed out of it. But this year he's only shooting 27% from 3. And he's had multiple games. Like the first game was 4 for 12, and he's had a 2 for 12, a 1 for 9, 2 for 8, 2 for 7. A lot of 1s and 2s. The most he's made in a game this year is 4. Everything else is 1 and 2. So it's not where you expect it to be, and I don't want him to shoot 8+ 3-pointers if he's only making 1 or 2. If you make 1 or 2 but you shoot 5, cool. But don't get it to double digits and only make 1 or 2. Like 2 for 12 on the 8th against the Pistons. That was the game where he came back in the fourth quarter, but oh, he won us the game. Yeah, he did it on free throws again, which I'm fine because I wanted to win. But seeing these concert stats it's not eye appealing to someone who is offensive heavy. And I just think it's a slow adjustment with Giannis, but still kind of annoying sometimes seeing accounts post this is Lillard's stats and he's shooting horribly.
You've made the concert dates reference a lot on the pod. So for people unfamiliar, what are you exactly referring to?
When I say, or if you ever read they're shooting concert dates, it looks like a month and a date. So like him shooting 3 for 17, that looks horrible. It looks like it's a weird reference. It's not like 4 of 9. Like when you see 4 of 9, you see, okay, that was a good shooting one. Obviously, that could still be a month and a date, but it's when they're so off. That's what it's a reference to, and I think it's funny, and I use it a lot because we notice it a lot.
But and I'm gonna go back to the Bulls game for a second. We said Andre Jackson Jr. should get more playing time. Honestly, I think he deserves a lot of credit for the win yesterday, Monday's game, because he made a lot of hustle plays. He gave a lot of extra opportunities.
And it was funny, he did that against Javon Carter. Yeah, I think Andre Jackson, I've referenced before that I think he's going to be what they had Javon Carter do, but I think he has higher potential. And don't know, Javon Carter used to be on the Bucks, now is on the Bulls, which is who they played. But yeah, a lot of just really nitpicky hustle plays where, sure, he shot 2 for 4, had 5 points, but you're not looking at that. He's one of the guys where the stats doesn't show the impact he had on the game. A lot of hustle plays, grabbing rebounds, tipping balls out back to people. It's not going to show as a rebound. It's not going to show as an assist, but it shows of keeping a possession. And I think that needs to be looked at more, like not as like a stat like that they record, but like when people talk about players, I feel like they need to show the hustle plays more than, oh, well, he only shot 4 shots and had 3 rebounds. Like that's it. Like he's doing a lot more than what the stats show.
Yeah, and I think he's also still trying to find his role in the offense. Because there was a moment yesterday where he was wide open and he didn't shoot it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I want to be fair to him, because to all of us saying it, it's like it's really damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it's one of those things where he's a rookie. So it's like for most other people, it's like, yeah, dude, just shoot it. You got to shoot it.
Yep.
But if he misses, it's just like, never shoot again. Like you're not a good shooter. So then it's always that self-doubt in there where it's like, oh my God, are the fans going to get mad at me if I miss? And again, they didn't get him. They didn't bring him in for his 3-point shooting. So I think it's an added bonus if he can hit from 3, but I just didn't. They didn't envision him to be like, oh, well, this guy's gonna be a knockdown shooter. I mean, he only averaged like 6 points a game in college. Like, defender, he's a high flyer. He can rebound and do all that hustle plays. But I think any type of shooting from Andre Jackson Jr. is like an added benefit.
Yes. Yeah. They got him for his fast break abilities, stealing into a transition play. But yeah, they didn't get him to average 20 points a game. Eventually, they got him to fill Javon Carter, that defensive heavy that they needed. Not necessarily that he's going to be some defensive player of the year, but yeah, he's out there to just be an annoyance, be a pest, which I think he's doing a lot so far of the minutes that he got. Again, it's very inconsistent with his minutes. Usually it's 0, 4, or like 13 to 15. But yeah, it's the shooting wise, it's cool if he hits a 3 or stuff because he gets hyped about it, but I don't expect him to be some scorer that they need off the bench.
Although I won't lie to you, I do kind of miss Javon Carter. When I saw him take a random pull-up 3, I'm like, oh, I missed that.
Yep, I remember he was doing that on our team.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I missed that. Some things just never change. Once I saw Javon Carter just take a random pull-up 3, I'm like, oh.
He was doing that for us not too long ago.
He was. Yes, he was. So, yeah, good win for Milwaukee, 118-109 on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of moving on to our last two topics. So it was announced yesterday that Jae Crowder is going to miss 8 weeks or reevaluating 8 weeks, whatever you want to call it. Actually, he had 2 different injuries. He had a left adductor and left abdominal tear.
When you don't know the name of something, it sounds bad.
Like adductor, well, okay, adductor. I thought abdominal was like in your side, and abductor's like kind of in your. It's in your groin area.
That's it was a groin injury, is what people were kind of labeling it as.
So, I guess what is his injury like? What impact does that have on the team?
I feel like it's bigger than a lot of people kind of expect it to be around the league. If you're a Bucks fan, you kind of know more. But Jae Crowder was shooting, I think the last time I saw, he was top 10 for 3-point percentage with like 56. He was making like 3 of 5 or like 4 of 6 type games, or he was making more than half of his shots, and just a good vet to have on the bench and on the court, and adding the bonus of making a couple threes when they needed him to. It's going to suck because that is like one of our only consistent 3-point shooters. And now he's out for a month and a half, which sucks because he's someone that you eventually need to keep you in games. But it'll be a hard role to fill. I'm hoping Andre Jackson kind of fills those roles in the meantime. Or Marjan kind of steps up and plays more minutes, but I think losing Jae Crowder is bigger than most people expect it to be, just for his 3-point percent shooting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jae Crowder, they expect him to, play defense and, shoot threes. I did look at the stats yesterday. Jae Crowder took the most shots out of anybody coming off the bench with like 6 per game. So, he's not afraid to shoot. He's not. Yes. He's confident in his shooting abilities. So it will be a tough loss, but at the same time, this is good for Andre Jackson Jr. to see what he's got.
And that's what I'm. See, it's kind of nice though. Obviously, injuries suck for anyone, no matter the team. But it is nice that there are a few guys who could kind of fill in his role with Andre and AJ Green as well. Those would be the 2 guys that I feel like would be used. In the meantime, probably going to be more Andre Jackson and AJ Green. But hopefully the 8 weeks they can still kind of stay consistent with their shooting in general. It's a huge hit, but it's not going to be losing Giannis for 8 weeks hit.
No, God, no. This is, no offense, but Jae Crowder is replaceable.
Yes.
That's why they drafted Andre Jackson Jr., because they just wanted to draft another guy who could defend. Not necessarily be out there for offense, but be out there for defensive purposes. And I think that's where, adding in Andre Jackson Jr. could be good, because I think Adrian Griffin, when he needed to find, he needed to find like 1 to 2 guys to be like, I can rely on these guys coming off the bench. And, without Jackson Jr. being in there, I just don't know if we really found anybody that was like we can rely on these set 4 or 5 guys. Because like Cameron Payne's a point guard, but he's not like a true point guard where he wants to get his shots first.
Yes, he's not a dribble up and make the plays. I can get my shots off.
He shoots too much, in my opinion.
Yes. For a traditional point guard, yes.
Yeah.
But as long as he's consistent.
Like
he's going to shoot, make them.
True. And again, the other problem is like Milwaukee just don't know how many, I just don't know how many true scores they have off the bench. Like maybe Beauchamp could give you 20 to 25 or 15 to 20 or something like that. But they just haven't had like a true like bench scorer.
Yes.
Come in this year.
It's usually going to be Bobby
Yep.
but sometimes he could score 15 points. He had 19 against the Bulls. It was actually, I think, one of his better shooting games this season because he was kind of in and out. But yeah, 7 for 10, 3 3-pointers. But yeah, there's no one that's like, yep, he's going to give us that 15 points consistently every game, which I wish they would have. But yeah, it'll be weird. I think they'll be able to work around it. But yeah, it just kind of sucks for that 3-point percentage shooting, just because that's kind of someone that you need when you are not doing well with your 3-point shots.
Yep. So, last topic on the pod, and this has been heavily discussed because the Chicago Bulls are likely rebuilding this year. And I'm just saying that just based on the fact that nobody holds a team meeting after the first game of the season.
Yes.
You're probably going to be rebuilding. So, there's been some scuttlebutt that Milwaukee could potentially look to acquire Alex Caruso. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it would be nice to have for the Bucks, especially with their lack of defense now that they traded Jrue Holiday. Caruso didn't play this last game. He's been out with a toe injury, but he is a defender who can also score. Obviously, again, he's not some like high scoring guy, but he is a guy who can knock down some shots. But he gives a dog type intensity that I think would fit the Bucks well. Can guard most positions well. I know he had the notable play from their game against the Suns, where he kind of locked up Kevin Durant to force him to shoot at the end of the game. But he's a guy who can give you a good defensive mentality and just kind of get those snippy defensive plays that I think the Bucks are lacking with their loss of Jrue Holiday. Again, Caruso being a guard, just kind of having that guy who can guard the guard position, point guard or shooting guard. They need someone who can get a 3-point type defensive player and also someone who can kind of rush into the paint that eventually leads them to Brook and or Giannis. But yeah, they're just missing that intensity on their defense that can get them better, or it's like getting them better at closing out games or being able to maintain leads for longer than a quarter. Because when they get a lead, they just give it right back up, and it's very consistent. And they need someone who can kind of stop them going into the paint so easily. And I think that's big because their paint defense is one of the worst I've ever seen.
I would like to acquire Alex Caruso for one reason only. It's time for both fan bases to make amends of what Grayson Allen did to Alex Caruso. I think it's time. Yeah, I think it's time. Okay, they're still not over that. Okay, it's like it happened. It sucks. Grayson Allen's out of Phoenix.
Yep.
So I don't think
on the other side of the country.
This trade probably wouldn't have happened if Grayson Allen was still on the Bucks. No. It's a little hard to be like, hey, here's your teammate. Hey. He's the guy who took you out of midair.
Hey man, how you doing?
So, but again, I think you're all right about the other stuff is that he does provide defensive versatility. He can shoot a little bit too, and he'd bring toughness, which God forbid, that's Milwaukee has enough guys like that, but
add another one. Why don't we?
They haven't had a. I'm just trying to remember the last time they had like a tough, gritty, like white guy, like Delhi, but he's like Australian. So I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's white. Is that white?
Yes.
Okay. So they had Delhi, but that was the last time. I mean, they've had Jae Crowder and Bobby Portis, but I think Milwaukee, you can always use tough players on your team. Yes, and I think that's what Alex Caruso would provide.
Yeah, and what's going on in Chicago, I think it's just not a good situation they want to be in, especially losing Lonzo Ball for like the second straight season and third season where he's been on and off being injured, which is unfortunate. But I think what the Bulls were trying to do just was never going to work in general. Having Zach LaVine being your highest paid guy, he's not going to take you to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like it's not going to happen. And adding DeMar DeRozan, like they got some good guys, but it's when you look at that roster, it's not going to be your finals run team. So hopefully they can kind of get one of those guys. I just don't want him to go to a team where we're going to be competing against, or just a team where he's not going to, like if he goes back to the Lakers, or if he goes to it's like a team where it's okay, we could have easily gave them what they offered.
Yeah. And going back to Lonzo for a sec. Well, first of all, he only has himself to blame. Okay. This is why you don't, this is why right out of college or right in college, you don't you don't have your dad design a shoe for you.
Yes, that was also a big thing too. That's
why
LaMelo
that's probably why you got ankle issues or knee issues. Because your dad, helped manufacture a shoe, even though you hadn't accomplished anything yet. That shoe was very much untested. So it's he just threw a shoe together. The shoe apparently would break open, and then, Lonzo would have to switch out. So, that just goes to show, if you haven't done anything and nobody really knows who you are, probably don't make yourself a shoe.
Yes. That's why
LaMelo
went to Puma.
But going back to it, yeah, I mean, he, like you said, he did win a championship with the Lakers. He got a, pretty decent sized contract with the Bulls. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, hopefully he doesn't go to a contender.
Yeah, it would be, if we can give them what another contending team can do, I feel like it should be thrown into the mix. Now, it depends on who the Bulls would eventually choose, but if they trade him for a bag of chips and a Coke, then we could also do that with the assets that we have. He's not like an all-star player. It's just a good bench guy that you can get to kind of help with defense.
So, Evan, you got anything else?
No, that is it. But we're playing the Raptors again tomorrow, so hopefully we can turn that around. It's another away Raptors game, which is when we got blown out, like that third or second game into the season. And then the Hornets on Friday and then Saturday. So we got 3 games this week. So again, tomorrow, which is Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So we got a back-to-back, one in Charlotte and then home against the Mavs.
And one thing I can promise you, me and Evan will be there to cover all those games.
Yes.
Okay? We're gonna recap all those games. So, make sure you guys tune in for that. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys later this week.